to protect this magical land.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A warm welcome to all our viewers. We're currently watching an elephant cow feeding in the open, like just behind us, and onto the tree line in the back. We actually saw the rest of the herd moving in there. Now today's quite a windy day, so most of them have gone in the back, but there's just this one that's right here that's more in the open, and we can watch her feeding. So I would love to invite everyone to come jump on this live safari here in the African bush. Just having a look at this elephant cow, as you mentioned earlier on, you can see the way she's moving and using her trunk to grab hold of the vegetation. You'll see she'll give it a little twist, and then sometimes even use her front feet to kick the plants in order to pull them out of the ground, and then from there towards the mouth. So I'm Nikki, I'm going to be your ranger this morning, and on camera we have Mpho. And it's such a beautiful morning. It's nice and cool. You can see we have our jackets on. And there's quite a nice breeze blowing, and it's interesting that these elephants are actually feeding into the wind at the moment. There's quite a few youngsters around as well, but as I mentioned, some of them have moved into the tree line at the back, and it's only this one that we can see here. So let's just spend some time and just watch her for a little while. See sometimes how she'll actually grab the grass and then hit it against her body and then into her mouth. And the reason for doing that is she's trying to get rid of the soil. Because remember, with elephants, they have 6 sets of teeth that grow out every 10 years from the back. And after 60 years, those teeth don't grow back. So they need to make sure that they conserve them as much as possible. Because by adding a lot of sand into their mouth, of course, it grinds down the teeth a lot quicker. And, I mean, just shows you her experience. Even though she doesn't look like too old female, she's probably, judging by the size of her tusks, as well as the height, you can see in comparison to the vegetation at the back, probably around 30, maybe 35 years old. You see, like when she pulled it out, just a head against the chest as well as against the base of the trunk and then into her mouth. But for now, we're going to enjoy spending a bit more time with this elephant. But let's head across to Josh at Tswalu.
Well, good morning and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. It's a slightly chilly morning. We've just been in luck to start our morning off with some bat-eared foxes. Just going to try and adjust a little bit here, folks. See if we can't keep them in sight. But they're a little cold this morning and very shy. No, I do think they've taken off there. We obviously can't off-road for them. But not a bad way to start the morning. See if BK can't get a look. There they go. Good morning again. My name's Josh, and behind the camera is BK. You'll be exploring the Green Kalahari with us this morning. Always nice to start out with the bat-eared foxes, but there's a lot of condensation on the grass this morning, so I think they're nice and wet and definitely a little cold. They'll have been feeding for most of the night and probably heading underground fairly soon to take the rest of the day off. So I think we're going to bumble along, see what else we can find. Why don't you come along for the ride? So we're going to see what else we can find to share with you on this lovely chilly morning. We're going to be sending you across to Steve, who would like to say good morning. Enjoy.
Good morning, and welcome to the dawn. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we have got a male lion, believe it or not, in the long grass. He's fast asleep. I think his name's Darkman, and my name is Steve, joined by Davisito on camera, and as always, delighted and excited to have you with us. Now, shall we see what the lion is up to? He's not up to very much at the moment, everybody. His tracks came in from the gate, straight past camp, and he's now lying here in the cedar and the long grass close to Vulture Dam. And I think that's going to be his morning. He's going to move around this bush a little bit. But indeed, Josh was saying that it's a pretty chilled morning. It does feel quite chilled today. Winter seems to be on its way. I felt it already yesterday. We had a couple warm days. And often a couple warm days with a bit of wind are then preceded or followed by a couple of cold days. So normally this time of year we experience cooler weather. Up until now it has been pretty warm and pretty lovely. One of those nice mornings where rolling over and pulling the blanket over oneself is often very attractive, as Darkman wishes someone could just roll over and pull the blanket over him. But I don't foresee him getting up too much, so we'll spend a moment or two with him and then go spend some more time with some animals. Djuma, Heather, you want to know how long he's been in Djuma for? Well, the Evoker males arrived in 2018. Sometime around April was the first time they arrived right here at the dam. They got into big trouble from the Birmingham boys and they left. And they kept sort of poking their nose in for most of that year. And then the Birmingham boys just left. So 3 years or so it's been that they've sort of been in and around these areas. They came in from the north. The name Evoker means they've come all the way from further west of where Ngala is in the Timavati. And the three brothers, I haven't seen all of them. I don't even know if they are brothers, but they're definitely Pride members, ex-Pride members. I don't even know when last the other two were seen with him. But they were with the Djuma Pride yesterday on Elephant Plains. And he broke his foot pretty much right about here. The Pride, Djuma Pride, plus the three brothers were involved in a buffalo hunt, caught live on the dam cam on, I don't know, the day I got back from the Masai Mara, the night I got back. And the camera showed, well, the day before he'd been seen and his leg was fine. And then the next day they found him on a buffalo and his foot was, there was a laceration on the top of his foot. His lip was split open and his foot didn't look very good. And then after that we noticed that his foot was quite badly damaged. But somehow he still managed to get by. And it's amazing the persistence and the willingness to live that these animals have. And as we saw last week with Mpo, he is very quick to move. He likes to follow individual birds, just like that vulture over there. And he actually saw vultures past Mpo the other day and got up and ran. Now, there are a couple of vultures that have just moved off there. We might go and figure out exactly where it is that they've come from.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far. For all of you WildEarth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew, hopefully Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Good morning everyone and welcome to an extremely windy and blustery morning here in Djuma Game Reserve. We're just sitting admiring this knob-billed duck female who is preening away, itching and scratching and just relishing the sunlight that's landing on her. So as I mentioned, the weather is, well, windy and blustery. Hopefully the sun will come through and we can at least warm up. I'm being brave without my jacket. Morgan on camera this morning, and we've already checked out the dens, and again, no sad, I'm afraid. I think that just too late. Unfortunately, I mean, it's well after 6:30 now. But too late. But of course, I will keep.
So you'll notice this female actually moved more towards us, and just at the back there was a youngster that actually suckled on the mom. I'm just trying to see if I can still see it. No, we're looking into the sun now at the moment, so it's really hard to make out all the right colors. But you can just see at the back there's a youngster, and that was the one that was earlier suckling on the mum. The mum is the one that's now closest to us. Let's give it some time and have a look at where they're going to. But if they do move behind those bushes and we can't really see them that well, as we'll carry on with our drive, wonder if the mum has maybe an itch in the back. See how she's pushing herself against that tree. But we're trying to get rid of that scratch, or that itch. Roxanne, I would say probably with elephants, they would be moving and be active right throughout the day. There's no, like if it's a really hot day, sometimes you might find that they would move into the cover of a big tree, and that's where they'll rest up, but also still slowly feed as they are standing there. But in the early morning and the evenings, probably all the cooler parts of the days when the elephants are going to be moving the most. How nice is that for a scene, having Mom and the little calf right next to her moving off. And just shows you how long that little one will take to get towards Mom's size. Now, I mean, if that is a young male, and let's say not a female, that young male, it would probably take that young male close to 20 years to get to the size of Mom, and another 20 years to be probably a meter and a half bigger, taller than Mom. So it'd be interesting to see. But at the moment, he's just enjoying a bit of grass. So even at this age, you can see the tusks are slowly starting to show. So still very young, probably under the age of 2 years. And then look at that little one that's just moved closer. I don't think if I can see any tusks on that one. So often tusks will start showing it around about a year old. So if you can't see any tusks, then you know that little elephant is less than a year. Julia, I agree with you. They are absolutely gorgeous elephants. And just being able to watch them like this with having the light behind them is also really nice because it brings out a lot of the golden colors in the grass. So let's just sit here and enjoy. So if they disappear behind the bush, then that will be our cue to start heading off and see if we can find some lions before it warms up too much. With them moving off like that, I don't think we're going to get a better glimpse of what we've just seen. They're probably going to follow the rest of the herd, and we can't see the rest of the herd anymore. So for now, what do you say about we carry on, go look for some lions and possibly leopard? Now, it is still early part of the morning, so there's a good chance that these lions or leopards might be on the move. We'll be looking up some of the bigger trees, of course. If a leopard's made a kill, often they'll drag it up into the trees so that the hyenas can't get to it. But in the meantime, while we go and explore, let's head across to Mike and see what he's up to this morning.
Watching a beautiful aggregation of different herbivores as well as one black-backed jackal here on Impala Plains. It's a windy, rather chilly morning here at Pridelands. Welcome everyone, my name is Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Johan. And we've decided to come to Impala Plains because it's very windy. And we don't want to walk through too many thickets today. It's not really particularly good for us. We can't hear animals warning us. We certainly can't smell them, not that we could before. But we found that a lot of animals have had the same thought. A lot of animals want to stay away from the thickets where leopards and lions could sneak up on them. I don't know, Johan, if you're able to see that jackal just moving through there. It's a very far view, but it's probably that same jackal that was calling yesterday. But the impalas, the zebra, the giraffe, all at the edge of the clearing, feeding on some of the greener vegetation that's still around. Although you can really see now in this open area, especially with these waving grasses, looks like a field of wheat starting to turn golden, especially in this early morning sun. And when we first turned up here, all the antelope and the zebra and the giraffe all watched us, but they've gotten used to our presence now. They seem to be accepting that we're here. Lara, it really is a peaceful scene. Peaceful to look at. But I don't know if you all can hear back home. The wind is fairly howling through here. I'm sure you can pick it up on my mic. It really is quite strong. So what we're going to do for the rest of the morning is move probably through this clearing, looking for some small things here and there, maybe signs of where these jackals might have a den, maybe any interesting tracks and dung, and perhaps move towards HQ Waterhole, just to see if any animals go there in the later part of the morning, as it starts to maybe warm up. Right now it's only about maybe low 20s degrees Celsius, which is probably about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So still pretty chilly. So while we bumble our way through this open clearing, looking for any small little interesting things, we'll send you over to Steve at Djuma.
Welcome back to Djuma, everybody, where we've gone from a very flat cat to a beautiful, beautiful female giraffe who's just chilling out here in the open. I wonder if she saw the male lion earlier this morning. It's definitely not showing any indication of that. Mouth full of food. Same story as the impala last night. Have a very close look at her throat. As soon as she stops feeding or chewing, you'll notice that that ball goes down the throat, into the belly, and then back up again. Are we ready for it? Grinding, masticating, chopping, finely processing, and she's going to swallow it. There we go. Down it goes. Watch it come back up. Whoa, here it comes back up again. That's very cool. Very good adaptation for these animals. There's no stomach acids or anything like that in that first chamber. That's basically just a storage container filled with saliva from the chewing. Basically like your preparation bowl when you're chopping vegetables. You chop them, or you gather them from the garden, and then you go and rinse them, and then you chop them later. That is what this is. And those that get chopped finely sink to the bottom of the stomach, and then they go through to the next chamber in the stomach where the actual breakdown and absorption starts to take place. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there are in fact more lions around. The way that she's been sort of standing around looking, it's possible she's maybe seen something else. Giraffe are very reliable indicators, but if she had seen something, she wouldn't be chewing right now. She's staring into the distance, but she would be stopped chewing. Justin, it's hard to say. I mean, every now and again we might have them for a week or two at a time, and then we don't see them for weeks. So there's no real hard and fast sort of rule about when they come and go, but they're not a common sight on Djuma, to be honest. We see them on Chitwa more often and on Bufusuk, but we don't actually see them that often on Djuma. Sabi Sands, for the most part, due to the density of lions and the density of the habitat, giraffe numbers are actually quite low in these parts. I remember working down south, people would actually call giraffe in on the radio because it's one of those animals that people want to see. They come from all over the world to see the giraffe, and they're not in enormous numbers. In the Kruger, towards the east, in the basalt flats there's huge numbers of dwarf or stunted knobthorns, and the giraffe numbers that side are just incredible. I get groups of 30, 40 giraffe together. Not like the Masai Mara also, where you get huge numbers of giraffe. So there's like acacia woodland, nutrient-rich vegetation, and they need to be able to see. Nina, the closest relative to the giraffe is the okapi, which kind of looks like a mixture between a zebra and a giraffe. The okapi is kind of that sort of missing link that shows that the giraffe came from a smaller animal that just got extended, and eventually became a much taller individual. So essentially the giraffe was a very small animal at one point, living in the forests, very much like a duiker. And as time went by, evolutionary adaptations that changed the competition. We always talk about competition and how animals have to change to be more competitive. And so the evolution of the giraffe's neck, one came about by their adaptation for feeding in heights that others couldn't, and secondly, males with the longer neck were able to compete more heavily for the females due to the fact that they fight by swinging their necks. So the perpetuation of a longer neck became standard and common practice, and the one with the longer neck became more successful, and so that genetic trait was pushed forward over quite some time, of course. You ever seen an okapi, Darby? I haven't.
No.
Emmett, their molars are actually quite jagged. They are like diamond-shaped or cut. Browsers, in general, have got very, very jagged, sort of angular teeth. Grazers, their teeth are normally quite flat. Mixed feeders are a mixture between the two, sort of flat and jagged. But giraffe teeth are very angular. I've actually got one I'll bring out next time and show you. They're very, very angular. They want to, the leaf material needs to be not ground down, but actually cut and chopped into different pieces. So the teeth are actually quite sharp. And the molars, that is. They don't have any sharp teeth per se, but the molars themselves. Our molars, if you feel, they've got sort of sharp edges to the sides, whereas the giraffe has sort of got cross sections of sharp angles along the middle of the teeth of each of the molars, sort of these cross-angular lines that obviously cross over each other from the top to the bottom, and they work perfectly for grinding and chopping the food up very finely. The more finely it gets chopped, the better it is absorbed, and the more nutrients are extracted from the vegetation. Carmen, I haven't really seen giraffe eating marula fruit itself, but I've no doubt that they do eat marula fruit. Most animals out here will eat marulas. They do eat the leaves sometimes. You don't see them eating too many marula leaves, but marulas do have some antacid properties to them, so they do fall into the diet. Bless you, Darby. Do fall into the diet of these animals from time to time. But it's quite a tricky business. Unless the giraffe picks the fruit up from the tree itself, they have to pick them up from the floor, and well, that's a very difficult thing for giraffe to do. They have to undergo all sorts of gravity processes to get the head down below the heart. The giraffe has evolved processes to do so, but for the benefit of just getting one or two fruit at a time, it is an enormous task. They do get enormous amounts of their liquid from the vegetation they drink, and their very specialized kidneys help them to absorb huge amounts of the liquid out of their urine, which gives them a very concentrated urine, because having to bend down and drink at any stage is quite a difficult affair and puts them at a bit of risk. A very top-heavy animal. When their head is low, they're very off balance and they're at threat. But it is splendid when you do see giraffe going down for a drink. You'll often see them out in open areas where there's a carcass, and they'll bend down to pick up a bone, feed on the bones of dead animals to get the calcium, magnesium. You see it especially with females that are pregnant. Okay, well, we're going to maybe stay with our giraffe a moment longer too, or hear what's going on the radio while we send you over to Tswalu with an interesting fruit.
So folks, myself and one of our other guides were just having a chat. One of the questions I got from you a few days ago was, do giraffes ever eat the Herbivore cucumbers? Now, at the time I didn't have an answer. I contacted our head of the reserve and asked him, and he said he'd never seen it or heard about it, but he couldn't see why not. And then when I started chatting to my colleagues, one of them said she had seen it. She'd seen a giraffe, thought maybe it was practicing osteophagia, which is the behavior of chewing on bone for extra calcium, and then realized that it was chewing on a Herbivore cucumber, which is this lovely fruit on TV now. And there's the answer. So it has been seen here on Tswalu. It is something different. And it is something we too can eat. It's a very bland fruit. It's got a slightly sour taste, but it is a massive source of moisture. I'm just going to ask BK to come towards me here for a sec and give you a little look inside this particular fruit, and you can see a massive amount of seeds. So this one, by the looks of it, was probably chewed on by a porcupine or something, and then those armored ground katydids have eaten most of the flesh. So those seeds you can cook on a fire, generally in the ashes and that, so it's not too hot. But they do have a slight taste like a peanut. Now, it is very much a fleshy fruit, and although I haven't done the seeds yet, I am quite interested to try it. So we'll probably try that in the next day or two. And then next to these Herbivore cucumbers, which are everywhere, is a plant that has a very strange little thorn, and it's called your devil's thorn. Now, it's a very popular plant with the Bushman peoples because it has a lot of medicinal uses. I have heard it called elandsdoring or skaapsteker in Afrikaans, but it's got quite a nasty little flat, very thick base thorn, and that's how it's spread. It's a vine on the ground, and this is the flower that'll go with it. So I'll just try and put that in the frame there. So quite a distinctive flower seen on the ground. But when we talk about it being popular with the Bushmen, the reason is because of these leaves. Now, I have harvested a little bit here, and what I want to do is just crush them up in my hand. And I've got another guide here with me who's going to add a little bit of water into the mix. Oh, a little bit too much. And you start to land up with this very oily, slimy layer. So you land up with quite a thick one. Similar to the wild sesame, this is a mucilage, and it can be used in a bunch of different ways. You can see that lovely slime coming out there. It can be a substitute for soap, but it also would have been used in childbirth as a lubricant. It does have other medicinal uses. It's believed to have aphrodisiac properties, but I don't think I want to try that one, to be fair. But you can see that very thick slime, so you can almost trying to just get those threads to stand out a bit, a little bit difficult. But yeah, so it has quite a lot. So in childbirth, obviously then with using your hands. But just fascinating to see that nature really does provide everything we need. Here we've got something that'll help with childbirth, a plant that supplies a fruit, as well as a source of oils. And then the one thing with your Herbivore cucumber I forgot to mention is it has a very long, deep taproot of about 1.5 meters, which will be dug up by your porcupine, your hartebeest, springbok, and that for that life-saving moisture. Obviously in the desert, water and moisture is absolutely everything, but quite a spiky fruit. So they are absolutely abundant at the moment. BK will just show us this little field. We've stopped next to a small thicket here. They are everywhere. So we've been doing our annual game count, and from the air, when I say you can see truckloads of them, it is not a joke. So we've had a question from Mary, and the question is, do I know of any recipes used with this particular fruit? Now, funny enough, myself and Kevin, the other guy, were just chatting. He says if you put it on a fire as it is with that thick skin, you heat it up like a braaibroodjie, you cut off the top, and you just add in a little bit of sugar to get rid of that sourness. You can actually eat it almost like a yogurt. I do know that the seeds will be cooked and maybe lightly salted and eaten like a peanut at our new Klein Jan restaurant. And I'm fairly certain if you wanted to, you could probably find a way to mix this fruit's flesh with, say, a peach or something, and actually make a jelly. So it would be almost that gelatin added in. So there's definitely a few different ideas there, Mary. Personally, I've only ever eaten the fruit as it is. I do want to try the seeds and see if cooking them makes a big difference. But a very cool source of not just moisture, but obviously natural sugars, as well as a bit of oils out in the bush at the moment. So Elizabeth has asked, does it smell nice? And I must say, they don't have much of a smell. It smells a little bit like watermelon, to be honest, Elizabeth. A very bland watermelon, but yeah, I'd say watermelon's going to be your best bet. And those seeds are very small, actually. They're not a very large seed at all. But so not just the consistency in that of watermelon, but also the smell, and a very, very thick, very rubbery skin. So quite an interesting little plant, and something very abundant. But yeah, I think that's us on our fruit mission for the morning. And I think we're going to hop on and see what else we can find. Obviously, it's not just these everywhere at the moment. We're very lucky. We've got a lot of Tsama melons in the area as well. So there's definitely a little bit of additional food out there due to these huge and successful rains. So as much as we're about to start our bumble, we're going to send you across to Lauren, who is on a bumble. Enjoy.
Welcome back. Sorry about that, everybody. We not sure what's happened that side. We've just moved on from our giraffe. There were some female tracks here just now. I'm just going to try to figure out where they've gotten to. Female leopard tracks, that is. They don't seem like they're that fresh. But it's been quite windy. So when it is windy, tracks do lose their edge, and the trees also can affect what's going on. So here is a tree in the road, everybody, that we will not be able to push back. That is what elephants do. This beautiful silver cluster leaf has just been smashed. Okay. We'll obviously go the other way. Sometimes a roadblock like that means you've got to go back that way, which is often a good sign. Don't you think, Davy? Yeah. How many times have we had that little tingling feeling or that reason for changing and then we find something cool? Oh, you're taking the jacket off already, Davy?
I reckon.
It's getting warm in the back there. Getting warm in the back. Okay, well, let's go back here. We were trying to figure out where those tracks have gotten to, so let's go back, see if they've actually cut that other side. It might be the reason that Giraffe has been looking the way she's over there, looking in this direction. Now, Shadulu was mating up until a couple days ago with tortoise pan male on Simbambili side. And we were tracking male and female leopard tracks sort of in this area the day before. Was it your guys' first morning, eh, Darby? So what was that, day before yesterday? And we weren't able to find anything, but I'm almost certain that the female tracks were those of Shadulu. Just for the area that they're in. I mean, there could be cars as well, but the way they were moving made me feel very Shadulu-like. And after 3, 4, what seemed to be 5 days of mating, I can tell you, everybody, Shadulu is going to be one hungry cat. So, probably not hungry enough to eat a giraffe, but you know what I'm saying. Well, you're all very excited. We need to find very fresh tracks because, like I say, they were there, but they weren't like listening. And I didn't drive this road yesterday morning, so I can't say whether they were here yesterday morning. But maybe my thoughts yesterday afternoon with those hyenas having stolen that or gotten that impala carcass, whatever it might have been. It might have been from Shadulu. Marcus, Shadulu I think is 7 now, if I'm not mistaken. She might be 8. She was 5 when I first met her. 4 or 5 when I met her in 2018. 19, 20, 21. So 7, 8 years old. I'm sure someone will be able to tell us the exact number. She is my favorite female leopard, by the way, everybody. Those of you who didn't know that. Now, we had her tracks just up here. I'm going to go check Western Quarantine, exactly towards where that giraffe was having a little look. And then we'll take it from there. Looking in all the trees. We've had her a few times in individual marulas right over here. Maybe I'll find you a track of hers now and you'll be able to see how not that fresh. Nope. Try to figure out where this female leopard has possibly gone to. We're going to send you over to Nicky, who's also trying to find himself a spotted cat.
I really hope Steve manages to find that leopard. So as he is pursuing or hoping to find that leopard and looking out for possibly tracks or any signs of it, we're also looking out for this pride of lions. Now, we had some tracks of a pride that were cutting in a southerly direction from one area to another. Just want to have a look. There's something that was in the road, possibly just the trunk of an elephant. And it might, like for us, to drive specifically this road, if there's any signs of them, they possibly would cross over the road, or maybe even there'll be some signs in the road of them being here. If we don't find anything, we'll head back to the last tracks and hopefully see if we can track them off on foot. But for now, I'm just slowly driving and looking out for the tracks of these lions. Now, because so I'm just looking on the side so I don't miss anything. Because there are few members within this pride, so let's say at least 4 or 5 pride members, there's a good chance with the soft sand in the road they'll be able to see once they cross. But if not, I think it might even be worth it for us to do a walk soon. So just to give you an idea where we're going to be possibly doing our walk, is there's an open area just off to our right here. Now, if you look here on this side, there's a game trail that comes down, and the last tracks we saw were coming down in this direction. Now, we haven't seen any tracks crossing. And if there were any, like on this game trail right on this side here, there would have been signs of them, and I can't see any track. So maybe, I think what we'll do is just go off for a little walk and see if there's any signs of these lions. So wish us the best of luck. And yeah, hopefully we find them soon. But in the meantime, I'm just going to slowly move up this road just to make sure that they haven't decided to cross over like this. But let's see if Mike on the bushwalk has some better luck.
So we're looking at, we've come a little bit further west of Impala Plains. The animals were moving into the thicket, so we decided to keep moving. But why we stopped here is because there's an interesting knobthorn. It's a young knobthorn that you can see over here, and it's been damaged by elephants. Elephants love feeding on these things. But what's super interesting is that this branch over here, hanging down on just a thread of the cambium layer, the bark over there, is actually alive. Can you see that? All this green growth here is because there's a little tiny sliver of that nutrient transporting material still able to bring that nutrients down so that it's actually still growing. But what's simultaneously quite interesting is that there's a second branch just down here, which has been also damaged by elephants, and this one does not have that thin layer of bark still attached. And so this one is dead, and you're starting to see lots of termite activity. I don't know if you can see all over here, there's this mud that's caked on it. Now that is from termites. Most of the termites here in southern Africa are very susceptible to sunlight, which means they would only be able to operate at night because of the UV radiation, that they don't have melanin in their body, the dark pigmentation that protects us from the sun. Now, what they've done to get around that fact is they've created these mud tunnels, these sort of pathways all over the tree, so that even during the day, these termites would be able to move around and feed on the dead material, not the living material, just the dead stuff from this tree. And they'll start off with the softer, remember yesterday we pointed out that cork wood, which had that very light-colored wood and then the dark wood. They'll start off, the termites, with the light-colored wood, the softer stuff. Then they'll eventually move into the darker, harder wood, eventually when they've had time. But it's just amazing that on one tree you've got living material and dead material, and the termites will remove the dead material, which is actually good for the tree. It takes the pressure off the tree, it removes the dead material, enriches the soil, which then allows this tree to grow more freely without the weight of the dead branches hanging on and pulling it down. It's a wonderful thing. Now, what's also interesting about knobthorns, and I don't know if you remember all those trees that were called acacias, but they've got, this is now called a Senegalia, they've got these very, usually very small leaflets, the acacias, or what used to be the acacias. But these ones have got extremely massive leaflets. Look at the size of that. If you think of some of the other thorn trees like an umbrella thorn, those leaflets are tiny, much smaller than a fingernail. And this one is far larger than even the thumbnail. So that's quite interesting. And now remember, with these trees, this here is one single leaf, all right? Not a number of leaves, it's one single leaf. And it's really interesting to know that most of the trees that were known as acacias used to split multiple times off the branch. So you'd have like many leaflets coming all the way out, but Knob thorns, they just split once. They come off the main stem of the leaf, and they just split once. So that's a very distinctive characteristic of knob thorns. Very interesting. So as you can see, still very windy, still super gusty, so we're keeping ourselves safe and just moving along these roads to make sure that nothing bumps into us.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi Sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Tswalu. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with WildEarth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Tswalu's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. For many years, WildEarth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the Live Safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Well, everybody, we figured out why Our Lady was looking into the bushes this side. Look at this beautiful fellow. He's gorgeous. Magnificent specimen. There's accompanying oxpeckers. Isn't he beautiful? Such a splendid image of a big male giraffe walking right here in front of us. He's licking his lips as he looks over towards the lady. He's looking around for competition at the male giraffe. Now watch him strut his stuff out into the open. Looks a little bit stiff, doesn't he? And we're going to move up and we're going to take full advantage of what possibly going to be a very nice interaction between this male and female giraffe. But while we do that, we will send you over to Josh in Tswalu Kalahari.
Folks, we have found a very relaxed black-backed jackal who is very curious about something. There's a smell he wants to know about. And he's maybe 5 meters from our vehicle and very chilled. And look at that, he's sitting like a dog. This individual is in incredibly good shape. That coat is very glossy. You gotta wonder what's he smelling. Has another individual been here? So the plant he's smelling is your indigo fera. But look at those eyes. What a beautiful animal. So scent plays a massive, massive role in the animal kingdom. Oh, he's eating something there. As I was saying, folks, scent plays an incredible role in the animal kingdom. You are able to leave messages that are then carried into the future. So by scent marking, you're advertising your presence, who you are, what you are, and that can last for days. He's eating a bit of grass there. So these guys are omnivores, and they need that fiber just to help pass the proteins and that. Now, we've just had a question from Glennon. What is the difference between a jackal and a fox? And scientifically, I'll be honest, I'm not certain. But just in terms of visual, you're looking at a much bigger animal in your jackal, where your fox is obviously a lot smaller, especially the Cape fox we have here. Their diets will be very different, as well as their family structures. Check how curious this little guy is. It's just a lot of fun watching him and seeing what's he up to. They're normally quite shy and will run away from the vehicle. The fact that he's so comfortable with us so close is quite special. I'm getting quite a good look at him. There's definitely a lot going on. This is a species that has had a very tough time in conservation, as they have issues with farmers and lambing and that. So they're often very skittish. But this individual is definitely proving to be the exception. I would love to know what he's smelling though, because it's genuinely fascinating him a lot. Their sense of smell is obviously a lot stronger than ours. So Marcus, it's not that unusual to see your carnivores and omnivores eating grass, because it obviously helps them digest protein. So you will see big cats like lion and that do it as well. But it is something, when you think of the word carnivore, it's not something you think would actually happen. So definitely not an unusual behavior, but maybe one that's not as commonly broadcast. So this chap is here in the long grass next to us, and there you see that loping stride, still very relaxed with the vehicle actually. You start to get a look at that stunning coat in the light there, that very beautiful coat. Such a curious youngster, hey? But what a pretty animal. Anna Marie, I agree with you. It is very cool to see black-backed jackal, and this has been a very cool sighting, even for us as guides who spend a lot of time out here. They're very seldom this relaxed and certainly never this curious. They are a very curious species because they're constantly watching what's going on around them, trying to find their next meal, communicating between each other, between family groups. So there's a lot going on out there for them. And I think what was particularly cool for me was that very relaxed behavior. This is not a habituated animal. This is a as wild as they come species, and it was a very nice sighting. We were both just saying we wish we had our stills cameras here, because in the beginning when we found him, he was just sitting like a dog. I mean, this is the most unusual thing. He looked like a young German shepherd. So always very nice to spend time with him. I think we're going to bumble on and leave this chap and see what he gets up to, and see what else we can find. Let's go for a ride. So we've just had something special. We're going to send you across to Pridelands and see what Mike has to share with you. Enjoy.
We were just admiring this really beautiful leadwood tree as we were walking down back towards the area of Impala Plains, and I just had to stand next to it with my stick on my head, because why not when you're next to a leadwood? You might be wondering why I'm doing this. To be fair, I'm not losing my mind. The reason I'm doing this is because I wanted to show off just how tall an elephant is. Now, I'm just about 2 meters tall, and my stick that I use is about probably almost 1.5 meters tall, and it's on top of my head, almost exactly as tall as where this elephant was able to reach when it was scraping against this tree. And I just thought that was amazing. So this is probably the height of this elephant at the shoulder, or just over its shoulder. That's amazing, isn't it? 3.5 meters. And you know, the tallest elephant ever recorded was over 4 meters tall. So that would be like the elephant's top of his head would be touching the bottom of this branch here. I mean, that's massive. I'm on tiptoes with my stick fully extended. That's an incredible height for an animal to be. And you know, yesterday in our camp, we were having, was it lunch? I think it was lunch, we were having lunch, and this elephant bull decided to wander into the camp, and we had to sort of play musical chairs moving around as it fed around the camp. And it was a huge elephant. Now, you know, we often think elephants all look the same, and to a certain extent they do. But it's really quite amazing how you notice some elephants are tall, some are shorter and squatter, some have big tusks, some have littler tusks, all these things. Very unique elephants. When you start to spend time up close to them, which luckily we really do get to do that, and so do you by association. So next time you're with an elephant, have a look at the height and the size and just compare it to the other elephants. You'll be amazed to see how differently they can look. And I mean, this is not fresh mud here. This was at least from a day or two ago, but it's massive. It was a huge elephant. Really, really cool. There's mud all over the side of these branches here. This really was a muddy, wet, sticky elephant. I'm so sorry, Calvin. I know you asked a question, but because of the wind, I think my comms are breaking up quite a lot. Would you ask that question to me again? That would be good. Oh, the gender. Calvin, I think I can tell the gender of this elephant, because this elephant was extremely tall, and male elephants are almost always much taller than females. In fact, we were so lucky. I think we were having issues that day. We weren't out, or it was between drives, I can't remember. But we watched a male elephant mating, which was incredible because it was twice the size of the female, and it was probably quite traumatic. I mean, he was towering above her, he mounted on top of her, and she really started screaming and making lots of noise. The other female elephants all came around and started screaming and making noise. So yeah, an elephant this size would almost certainly have been a male elephant. Females will also rub against trees, but it would probably only be, somewhere around this tall where they were scratching. I mean, but elephant females can probably be similar to males in that some will be taller, some will be shorter. You never know. Generally speaking, the older an elephant is, the bigger it gets, and that's the same with females. Although sometimes you see the very old females looking a little bit hunched because they're getting a bit older, their joints are having little issues. But anyway, we're going to keep heading that way, see what else we can find along this road, and in the meantime, we'll send you over to one of the other live safari locations.
So we just managed to spot these lions in the riverbed. Actually, one of our experienced rangers, Dyke, that's with us on drive, that's going to be joining us on Safari Live for the next little while, spotted these lions from quite far off. And we actually on top of one of the banks, and we're looking into the river, having a look at those lions. Now, what I'm going to try and do is, there is a slight bigger gap where I'm sitting right now. So I'm going to move slightly forward for the camera. So just bear with us. It might be a bit shaky, the image, but I'm going to stop as soon as we can get a slightly better glimpse. There's going to be a gap coming up now. There we go. We can actually see the youngsters in the back now. This is absolutely incredible. Like the whole story this morning. So as we were tracking these lions, they were basically going down the road, and then the track started splitting up. So a good sign or indication that they were hunting. And basically where they ended up in the river might be that they could have been successful with something small, or if they weren't, just decided to go and lie down in the river and warm up for the morning. But what I like to do is spend some time here and then eventually see if we can get a bit closer to these lions. Sarah, I agree. It is quite amazing to see them in the riverbed and so relaxed. And also what's nice about it is they're in the open. So I just want to show everyone where we are and where the lions were spotted from. So we're going to zoom out, and then from there on we'll probably see if we can get another glimpse of them closer. But so this is from where we're looking at these lions. So you can see we're driving on the side of or along this road here, and that's when Dyke spotted them through this clearing. But a really good spot. I mean, you could have easily started looking down for tracks, or maybe even off to the left and missed them. Pumper, I agree with you. It is quite a nice treat in the morning to see these cubs, especially in the riverbed there. Now, there is a lioness just lying down to their right from where we are. So I'm going to give it a bit of time, and then hopefully as we go down we can see how many members of the pride would be there. I can only see 3 at the moment, like those 2 youngsters and the 1 lioness. There might be more around. I'm not too sure. They could have split up during the hunt. Maybe the others are just lying down closer towards the bank. So as soon as we get down, we'll be able to see. But just judging by the size of their bellies, I don't know if they've had anything to eat during the evening. So with these particular cubs we're looking at now, you see the one slightly closer to us. You notice the difference in color. I mean, he's more of a sandy color, And the one facing away with her head down is the female. She's more of a darker brown, golden color. Now, she'll probably stay with the pride her whole life, but that young male, once he gets to the age of 2.5 years, that's when he's going to be pushed out of the pride by the more dominant males. However, I must say, I have been seeing quite a bit of a change where there's a young male currently with the Birmingham Pride that's 5 years old, and he's still with the pride. Where he's just being very submissive, and because of that, the males have actually been tolerating him in the area. But in normal conditions, that's when these males, or this male, would probably be pushed out. And because he's by himself, he might join up with other younger males, probably the same age, and form a coalition, or may even just be by himself and become nomadic until he is dominant enough to take over another pride. But I think for him at this very point in time, he doesn't really think about that. He's more focused on when his next meal is going to be and when Mom's going to actually go out and hunt for him and for, of course, his sister. You can hear the wind is blowing quite hard today. It's a nice breeze that's coming in. It might be a cold front coming in this afternoon. So maybe what we can do is let's turn around, start heading down and see if we can get maybe a closer view of these lines. It's been really nice being able to see them from a different angle here from the top, but I think it would be quite great to get into that river and have a better look at them. So I'm just going to move forward here, find a nice suitable place to turn around, and as soon as we can, we'll head back this direction and cross into the river. And then while we're doing that, let's head across to Lauren on a bumble.
Well, us at this end have been following some leopard tracks, female leopard tracks. I want to say, I don't know if this is confirmation bias, as Mr. James Hendry always used to say, I want to say it's Tlalamba, but I really don't know. We really don't know. You can only sort of make a very educated female, and from the sort of area you're finding the tracks. So far, no luck, but we're going to keep just working the area. It's a cool day, it's very overcast, looks slightly, I'm not sure if we're in store for any rain today. It's still a bit blustery, and although that's not the most pleasant conditions to drive in, it's promising in terms of predators on the move. These hot summer's day, where it's hot at 7 o'clock in the morning, those are the days you're going to struggle, because of course the nocturnal predators will go flat. So I'm just driving very, very slowly, trying to see if we can see any signs. I don't know if it's Tlalamba. It might not. I obviously just hope it is. Many of you are asking, is she pregnant? Has she got cubs? We don't know, is the answer. It's likely yes. It was reported by one of the guides from Cheetah Plains that he saw her very, very late one night with suckle marks. But I have not seen her, and we really don't know. She's obviously missing in action. And her behavior changed in the last few months that I spent time with Tlalamba. She was very snarly, the Tandy smile was coming out. And I wonder if that was because she was at that point pregnant. But again, it's speculation. We are just speculating here. We need to be honest about that. We all want her to have cubs. Rexon saw signs of mating leopards at one point. It seemed to appear like it was Tlalamba and Mulwati. But do we know? No, we don't. We really, really don't know. And it's just too thick right now. It's so thick, that's going to work against us in every way. Monica, not in any way, shape or form. From two very different, sort of separate lineages. Tlalamba's obviously our dominant female now, and she comes from the Karula lineage. Her mother is Tandi, and I guess it's not proven by DNA yet, but we very much suspect her father is Tingana. And not only do I think she's the double of Tingana, it's in their relationship. When you watch them together, Tlalamba and Tingana, he would not tolerate her the way that he has and the way that he does if she wasn't his. So I think it's safe to assume that, but in terms of genetics and DNA analysis, I guess we don't have that result. And Shadulu comes from the west, so they're not related. And when it comes to female territories, sorry I'm not looking at you all much, I'm trying really, really hard to see through the vegetation. When it comes to female territories, it's actually more beneficial for your sort of territorial neighbour to be a relative of yours, i.e. Tandi and Tlalamba, Tandi and Kuchava, than it is a non-relative like Shadulu. You're better being close to your sort of genetics, if you like. It won't be a friendly encounter if Tlalamba and Tandi meet, but it also won't be so aggressive. So in answer to your question, no, they're not related. So I'm just going to keep working this area for now, and as I do that, over to Mike at Pridelands.
Good luck, Lauren. We have found what we want to film. So we're looking for small stuff, and we found a whole colony of harvester ants that are busy bringing in the spoils of their morning forage. So you'll see here close by to the entrance hole, one has just taken a 3-awn seed underground. There's another one taking a little piece of grass stem in there, struggling with all this wind. Look at this one over here. This one is bitten off more than it can chew almost, but it's amazing the size of things that they can carry, these small animals. So these harvester ants are incredibly important. They collect grass seeds from all over and bring them down into the burrow. Often these grass seeds have got some sort of oily substance which attracts them, that they want to feed on. And then what you see around here is the leftovers. Once they've ingested whatever that substance is that they wanted, they leave the seeds outside of their nest hole, the colony. And what happens now is that the wind will disperse these seeds in places where otherwise they wouldn't have grown potentially. So a really, really important part of the seed dispersal in southern Africa, for the grasses especially. But they don't just take grass seeds, they take bits of the stem, they'll take pieces of leaves, all sorts of stuff, which is pretty cool. And if you look here, there are different types of these harvester ants. So they're over there, this small one that I'm pointing at, this is a worker, okay, a drone of some sort. It goes out and forages and gets little things. And then if you come over here, where was it now? There. Over there is a much larger ant with a big head and a big abdomen. This is one of the soldiers. This ant here is purely there to defend the colony. Anyone that comes and threatens this colony, this ant will sacrifice itself in order to protect the rest of the workers. And in doing so, it will release pheromones probably, and more soldiers will start pouring out of this hole, and all the workers and drones will start pouring in. And so it's quite a useful and important way for these insects to remain, alive, and the colony to keep working. Every single one of these ants has a very specific role, and that's the role they live in for their entire existence. It's called a caste system. What are you looking at over there? 2 giraffes. Oh, they're right here. Some giraffes right over here. That's awesome. So as you can see, when you're focusing on the little stuff and you're taking time, sometimes the big stuff comes to you. So here we've got 2 male giraffes coming to Bridget. We use all of our senses. We as human beings don't have particularly great senses for a lot of things. So we've got great eyesight, but our smell and our hearing is not as sharp as it could be. So we definitely use our eyesight more than anything else when we're walking in open areas. But if we're walking in thickets or areas that are a bit more closed, we'll definitely use our hearing quite a lot. As we're walking, especially on a windy day today, we're stopping frequently to listen for any animals moving about in the bushes. And in fact, my first sign that there was something up was when I looked up and saw Johan looking behind me. So I used my eyesight, but then I started to listen behind me and I could hear cracking branches and sticks from these giraffes. And with animals, so we use our eyesight and our hearing. Our sense of smell is important, but it's difficult. A lot of people don't have great sense of smell. It's difficult to pick up the subtle hints of animals moving around. But with giraffes, for example, you can see they've got big ears and big eyes. So that's probably their main senses. And then their sense of smell is probably also very sharp, but being very tall, it's probably not the one that they smell the most, because they're not at ground level smelling the tracks, smelling the urine, smelling the dung, that kind of stuff. It's interesting, they still seem to be coming towards us. And the wind is swirling around in this little thicket, but if anything, it's blowing almost directly towards these giraffes. So they can certainly smell us, and I'm sure they can hear us and see us. Yeah, the wind is blowing directly towards them. But it's awesome that they're so comfortable with us. Kenny Pasta, giraffes are very curious, and you know, it's because Kenny, they're so tall. They're so tall and so big, they don't have to be afraid of things unnecessarily. So even if we were lions, they wouldn't necessarily have to start running away immediately. They just stop and stare and look and see what is the lion doing. And often for us, because we're quite, as human beings, we're fairly intelligent. I mean, I guess we can dispute that, but you know, we see a giraffe and we either stand in the open so they can see us, or if we want to engage their curiosity, we can go and sit behind a thicket and wait, and you'll see the giraffes literally walk right up to you in order to investigate. What was that thing that I saw? It looked like a human, but it's acting strange. And then it'll come right up to us. These two giraffes seem like they are feeding on either a knobthorn or a tambuti. I can't tell from behind the bushes, but it's interesting if it's a tambuti that they would choose that. That is not regarded as a particularly good food plant. But absolutely wonderful to have them here. Oh, here comes a whole bunch of oxpeckers coming in to get their own breakfast on the backs of these giraffes. Lovely.
On the 27th of April, WildEarth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what WildEarth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Staying one step ahead is the key to survival out in the African wild. And now you can stay in front of the pack with a WildEarth weekly newsletter. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you will get exclusive behind-the-scenes stories about your favorite guides and camera operators. Information about our upcoming plans and projects will be delivered to your inbox every week before anyone else. And you can hone your guiding skills by taking part in our Identify Me nature quizzes. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely, a relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
So we managed to make our way down into the river, and as you can see, we found this lioness again with the 2 youngsters, and in the back there's actually 2 other females. So altogether there's 5 lions here. And what's interesting though is that these 2 younger females, so the one lying at the back there and her sister, have actually decided to stay with this lioness instead of going to the rest of the pride. And it might be because of the fact that this lioness is a very good hunter, and being able to look after herself and the youngsters as well as them, they decided to stay with her because they also, even though they are quite young, they are fully capable of hunting by themselves. But of course, with her experience, it just increases their chance of being successful. I see the other ones lying down far at the back. Now, just on the bank to the right of her, there were a herd of elephants earlier on. You can see she's just looking in that direction. I'm looking back towards us. Mohammed, there is a chance that lions could be nomadic, especially with younger males. If they do, let's say if they're in an area where it might be quite confined, or there could be certain boundaries or isolating factors that would prevent them from moving out. And with all the prides, there could be maybe 2 or 3 dominant males within a pride that looks after that particular pride. Then because he can't take over, and maybe because of the fact that the other males don't really join up with him, they can be nomadic for most of their life. However, let's say in this case here, is with some of the females, if they do move off, sometimes another male from a different pride can join up with them, and they can actually form their own pride. So I think there's a yes and no. It all depends on the circumstances which the lions would find themselves in. And also, like, if you think about it, let's say if this is if lions were introduced in a new area, then probably they'll be nomadic because they won't have a set territory. They'll move from one area to another in order to just find food and water. But in the meantime, while we're just having a look at these lions, let's head across to Lauren with a very interesting bird.
I knew they were not going to be obliging for you, Morgan. They never are. We still have them, though. Also feeling the sort of blustery cold weather. And of course, this is the white-crested helmet shrikes. Really obvious birds with the black and white contrasting colours and the bright yellow eye. And they're actually some of my favourite birds to spend time with, believe it or not. When you get the time. This is probably the longest sighting. No, I'm only teasing. We had the loveliest sighting last night on the way back home looking for nocturnal animals. On the Gwari bush, right beside us, we could just see movement, and I thought I'm just going to turn my light off because I don't know what I'm spotlighting. I can see there's something in there, but I don't know what it is. Sorry, I've just seen another bird. Bear with me. Let me check it out. It's a drongo. And when we put the infrared light on, it was very, very small little wax spills. I think it was a blue wax spills, but it's obviously very difficult to tell at night time. Nestled into the Gwari bush. There was young ones, there were older ones, and they were all just huddled together sleeping. It was very sweet. Now that's a drongo making noise. Now where have you gone, helmet shrikes? We actually did a lot of birding in Namibia, and I really added to my bird list. We had pelicans, the greater flamingo, the lesser flamingo, the acacia barbet. Oh, birding was just fantastic. What's happening here? I hope you can hear how vocal Strongo is being. Jared's, oh, that's better. Isn't this lovely? Do you see how he's stretching his neck each time he wants to vocalize? Projecting that sound further. Got a special little voice box called a syrinx, not a larynx, syrinx. Lovely little sighting, worth stopping for. Sadly, those leopard tracks have got us going round and round in circles. But I'm still going to keep at least trying to find more signs of whatever female this is. But for now, back across to Nicky and his lions.
So from early on, these lions really haven't moved too much. And it might be because it's nice and cool weather. You can see early on we had a bit of sunlight, but now it's quite dark. There's a lot of cloud cover that started to move into the area. And because of this, you might find that these lions will stick in the riverbed for a little while longer. It might even move later. But if they don't move, we'll try and maneuver the vehicle off to our right, see if we can get a different angle on these lines. But for now, let's just sit here and wait and see if there's anything. Now and again we hear some impala because it's not a rutting season in the background, and then often these lines will lift their heads and just stare in that direction. But I haven't heard anything now again in the last few minutes. So as we're sitting here, there's actually a few bird calls in the distance. You can hear the chin spot batis, which goes like 3 blind mice. Like, you can hear a black crowned chugger as well. And early in the morning, along the riverbeds here, we can hear the southern ground hornbills with that distant African drum sound, like a doo-doo-doo-doo. I'm just very intrigued of how muscular this lioness is. If you look at her shoulders, like from the head down the shoulders even to the side, you'll see a lot of lean muscle. And even if you look from there going backwards, like towards her rump area, she's very sturdily built and in a pretty good condition. Often if lions are in a bad condition, see the rump area close to the tail, often you can see the bones. So like a good indication would be those youngsters. Look at the young male. You can actually see a lot of his bones sticking out around his back. It might be that though mother could leave them in order to hunt, sometimes whatever she hunts might be quite small and it won't be enough for all of them. The one lioness actually got up and started moving a bit close, and this is why this female's lifted up her head just to see if there's anything. You'll notice from earlier on she was just lying down in the grass off to the right. So that grass is called the Natal red top grass. It's the one with the white. Eventually it turns red in color, and often in areas that are quite disturbed. I mean, in the riverbed you can see they can actually grow in very nutrient deficient soils. But sometimes when you drive next to the road, or maybe an old airstrip, or just somewhere, you often find this type of grass. So this lioness just picked up her head. And if you look at her face, she has almost the perfect face. There's barely any scars around her face. You might notice around the lip there's one scar in there. But overall, in a very good condition. And if you look at her eyes, like I think one thing that always stands out for me with lions is that white underneath the eye. You can hear this Franklin's alarm calling, that's why she opened her eyes now. And her ears pricked back towards where the sound's coming from. And then also look at that black patch. Like if you follow her lips all the way back, you can see that very dark patch. And then that prominent white chin.
So folks, we've decided to stop with someone a little bit smaller who's going crazy, by the looks of things. These are our southern ground squirrels, and it is the WWE Championship this afternoon, or this morning, not afternoon. So, a lot of activity going on at this burrow system. These guys are incredibly industrious diggers, and they dig their own burrow systems, even in incredibly hard soils like concrete. But there's a lot of playing going on at the moment, as you can see. There's very bushy tails, making them very easy to ID and not to confuse with your meerkats or your mongooses. They've got an incredibly bushy tail, which they use actually as a sunshade when foraging. So these guys will feed on most plant material, quite an extensive range, dig for bulbs and roots and that, as well as certain species of insects. Looks like they're cleaning the burrow system out there, but... Whee! This chap has a lot of energy. That distinctive pose, just checking any predators in the area, just having a look. Big threats for these guys obviously will be jackal, your birds of prey, so like your pale-chancing goshawks and that would be a threat to them as well. So always good to keep a lookout. But quite a fascinating species. So this is looking very much like a female with two youngsters. So she'll stay in a very small area, maybe a hectare or two wide, and always using the same burrow systems, where your males actually rove from burrow system to burrow system. And this obviously helps spread that gene pool nice and wide, which is always good. but it looks like it's definitely housekeeping morning today. Bit of cleaning going on. And it's warming up very nicely at the moment, I must say. I think it's going to be a bit of a scorcher of a day. So they'll be using that tail as a sunshade quite a lot. Still a little bit of condensation on the ground. So Jerome, how deep are those burrows? I've never excavated one, and there's not a lot of literature on them. I have walked over an old abandoned burrow system and fallen into it. Funnily enough, I broke through the roof. That salad diet wasn't working for me. So, and that particular one, the tunnels went down roughly about a meter, so 3 foot. So they get fairly deep. Remember, those tunnels have to be long enough and deep enough that something like a jackal can't dig them out very easily, because this is their primary safety net. So I'd say you're probably looking at quite an extensive tunnel area, maybe covering 10 or 15 square meters if it's quite a big colony. These guys get up to about 30 in a colony. And you're looking at, I would say, a meter to maybe a meter and a half absolute max straight down. But these tunnels aren't going straight down. They twist and turn in that, and it's one of the ways they excavate quite a large area, but also it helps them have multiple exit routes from things like our Cape Cobras here, or puff adder and that as well, which will most definitely feed on them. Definitely a lot of wrestling going on today. So what are the uses for the squirrel's tail? I think you'll find that it helps keep them balanced, especially when they're standing on their hind legs or they're running. It'll help them turn a little bit potentially. And then obviously as a massive sunshade is the most primary use of them, I would say. Obviously out here, these guys primarily occur in semi-arid and very warm regions, so that sunshade giving them the ability to stay out of the direct sun and feed during the hottest parts of the day would be a very big advantage. Always fun just watching them and see what they get up to. This is a small colony, but they get very large. So I think we're going to leave our little friends to finish cleaning house and having their wrestling matches. We're going to send you across to Steve at Djuma. Enjoy.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we were following up on these vultures earlier, and we tried to get a frame of them before, but they flew away before we could get them on shot. But what was quite nice about the vultures was that there was a white-headed vulture with them before. He seems to have flown somewhere else, and these fellows are just looking very drearily hanging out in this dead tree. So often vultures are worthwhile to go and investigate. You see a group of vultures together, but if you see a group of just white-backed vultures, often not too much to sort of worry about it. Often what it means is that they've gone and had a bath, a rinse, and then they've gone and hung out in one tree where they've then spent the evening. So they went to hang out in the tree after washing to dry themselves, and you often find them together in one tree like that. If you find multiple species, especially if there's a hooded vulture there, or a batelier, or a tawny eagle, then I can be almost certain that there's some form of carcass or meat on the ground. But these fellows were on the other side of the drainage line where we were following up before, and they've flown just few hundred meters to the next available tree, where they will spend the day until, well, the sun comes out and starts to generate the necessary thermals required to help these very large and heavy birds to fly. Otherwise, from an energy point of view, they'll just spend the whole day there. Liam, it's because the dead trees have got no leaves and branches in the way. A vulture isn't the most agile of flyers, so when they land in the tree, they've got to come in with sort of brake lights on to stop themselves in the tree, and that's using their wings to slow them down. And if there are branches in the way, they'll get tangled, and it would be very difficult to do so. So same as taking off, they've got to jump up and then spread their wings to fly. Now, if they landed in a tree with branches and leaves everywhere, that would impede them to no end. Generally, most large birds of prey will perch on dead trees, or at least on exposed branches where there's easy access in and out. And these are the white-back vultures. No, I've never seen that before. Vultures are ground feeders. They do have the potential to find carcasses that are on the tree, but they're not able to really access it and to carry something. They don't have the necessary foot structure to grab. They can hold on to things, but their height, or sort of their weight, is very, very heavy as it is to lift themselves off the ground. Now, to be able to pick up something and to carry it into the tree, it's not what they are good for. So I've never seen a vulture doing so. The bearded vulture is one that does pick up carcasses, does pick up bones for the most part, the lamachai, and will fly high up above rocky areas and then drop the bones down onto the rocks, using the rocks to shatter the bones so as to get inside the bone. So that's a different example. A bearded vulture, they live in very high montane mountainous areas where the wind is normally quite strong, so they would pick up a bone, they'd just lift their wings and the wind would lift them up into the air. So it's a very easy facilitation. So maybe on rock outcrops or on mountains, vultures could behave differently like that. But I've never seen vultures taking a kill into a tree. They normally squabble over it on the ground, try and wolf as much of it down as they possibly can, and then they can fly away, whitebacks that is, with at least 1 kilogram or so of meat in their crop. Chris, I suppose if a vulture died, vultures would come and eat it. I suppose that's very possible, but they are not predatory in that way. They don't, especially whitebacks, they aren't aggressive in that regard. They do squabble over food, but they don't really have the necessary skills to kill each other. But no doubt if one died, they would probably squabble over its remains. I can't imagine what that must taste like. Tastes pretty foul, I would say. Pompeii vultures are always waiting. They're always waiting. They're either eating or they're waiting. Even when they're flying is essentially waiting. So they're waiting for the wind to stop blowing, and they're waiting for the heat to pump down on the earth to generate thermals, which will make these convection currents that lift up. And once that happens, they will get some elevation and then move off to suitable areas, looking for some food, maybe go and get some water, go for a bath. But right now, they're just bracing themselves against the oncoming wind.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet, and all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
I love being a cam op for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
So have a look at this young male. He's just made himself very, very comfortable, and you can see the vegetation in the back is moving. The wind is blowing quite strongly down this riverbed, and all the lionesses are basically just lying down and listening. But for him, of course, he's not really going to be participating in any hunt at the moment, so he's just conserving as much of his energy as he possibly can. If you look at his belly, it looks like he possibly had something to eat over the last 2 days, but not something big. Otherwise, often you can see their bellies looks like they've swallowed a balloon, but in this case, quite flat. And often if they really had a big meal, they could be panting, even in cold weather like this, because of how the food pushed against the diaphragm, which pushes then, of course, against the lungs, making them short of breath. And you'll notice on his back legs, notice the spots on his back legs and as well as his front. So often with the cubs, and you'll notice even on the belly, is when they're born, they're covered with these spots, light spots. And as they get older, they tend to lose them. So around about the age of 3.5, 4 years, they start losing those spots. Some might carry it on until they're fully adults and you can see the faint spots, but mainly they start losing it later on. And even if you look around his face, you'll see around the ears, there's a bit of fluff that's developing. So it's a sign of his mane. And it would only, like, for him to get the size mane of his father would probably be in the next 6.5 years where he will have a fully developed mane. But for now it will start under the neck, might start just behind the ears, and then later on it will fold up towards, or between his ears towards the front of his face. The one lioness actually just got up behind us. And let's have a look. I'm going to try and lean out of the way. See if she comes towards the rest of the pride. It might be that she can just go towards her sister and then rub up and lie down right next to her. So I'm not too sure if I am sure they must be like claws already when they're very young, but I'll have to go and research and look it up. That's a very good question. I'm not too sure. I would like to know any of the other rangers if they've ever read anything about it, but I can imagine they must have some form of claws, but probably so small and or still developing. But as I said, let me go and read up a little bit, and maybe Tala, I can get back to you this afternoon on those claws and if they're born with them. My name Jeffrey, with lions in particular, they can feed any time of the day. So it's not necessarily bound to night or bound to morning or bound to afternoon. It can happen at any time. It depends on when they make the kill. I mean, if they're going to make a kill at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, let's say they're near a waterhole and an animal comes down to drink water and they make the kill, they will feed off of it as much as they possibly can until they full, and then eventually go and find some shade and lie down. Whereas in the cooler part of the days, they tend to move more often. So if there was, let's say, a kill, they more actively look out for an opportunity to hunt. But feeding, they prefer just whenever they have a meal. That's when they'll feed. Carl, they are capable. So, like an idea is, so let's say there was, for example, a spur fowl that had an injured wing and it can't fly. Then you could find that these cubs will try and grab it and kill it. I've seen especially young leopard cubs, which are going to be very similar behavior to this, where when the mum left them, they would actually hunt these water birds near the water. So some of the thick knees, the water thick knees, they would actually pounce on them and kill them. And I would imagine with these young cubs, if there is something that presents itself, I mean, if there's an impala that comes past here, there's no way that these cubs will be able to catch that impala. But if it was something small like a little scrub hare that's hiding in the bush and they can corner that scrub hare, there's a good chance they could catch it. So basically anything smaller than them, they will be able to take down. So this is the young female, and look at how she's also quite muscular already, sitting up, just staring, hearing if there's anything. And what they're doing is she's actually looking or staring in a southerly direction, so that's where the wind is coming from. And almost for her is looking down. I don't know if there's anything that walked there and maybe that she picked up the smell, or maybe some of the birds flew up, and now she's just having a closer look to see if there's anything. For now, let's head across to the more western side of the country towards Tswalu Kalahari.
So folks, we decided to go and check one of our water holes, and it is quiet. We've got a lovely pair of breeding shell ducks who seem to be very much resident, and that's our female there with that white head, and the male's just to her left. But we just thought we'd take a moment and slow down. Always on the move doesn't help, but it is nice just to see what we can find. I can hear blacksmith lapwings and some sociable weavers as well. And it's just a very peaceful scene. We've also got the company of a ground squirrel, and there you're getting a much better look than our earlier sighting. Quite a tubby little guy, a distinctive white stripe, of which your ground squirrel species, 4 of them have that stripe down the sides, but this is our southern. And although that tail's not very poofy at the moment, it can expand quite a lot. Very cute little fella. We'll ask BK just to turn the camera a bit. We had a question earlier about the tunnels, and there's one quite close to our vehicle, which you can see he's excavated, and looks like it took quite a lot of work. If that doesn't look like a quarry, I don't know what does. This ground is rock hard. So, just testament to their digging abilities, and of course, our ground katydids everywhere around us. Although it does look like next to his tunnel over there, I'm just pointing something out to BK, there is what looks like a spider hunting wasp. Can you see it there, BK? 2 tunnels across, there you'll see, just trying to see obviously a rather small little insect. It's one of our spider hunting wasps by the look of it. I've seen these guys catch locusts easily 10, 20 times their size and drag them. They then bury them underground, and they'll lay a single egg in them, and that locust will be the meal for a newly hatched youngster. But they put a little capstone over their hole to stop anything stealing it or getting in there. This one's quite busy up and down. As to which specific species this is, I cannot tell you. I'd have to have a bit more of a look. But very busy. So, lots actually going on here at the waterhole. There's a lot of little swifts drinking at the moment. Catching them will be a little bit more difficult. But I have faith in BK. And just see them kind of hitting the water every now and then. It's a very little bird you'll just see zooming in and out of the frame. It's quite a large flock here, all drinking. They skim across the top of the water. But some lovely reflections on the water as well. It's amazing watching them drink. And of course, our blacksmith lapwing providing the sound in the background. So although our route ahead is clear, it sounds like Steve's got a bit of a roadblock. Why don't you go and see what's going on there?
Welcome back, everybody. We've got a catastrophe in front of us unfolding. Boys. Always boys. Oh, just love elephants. These two are going to push themselves out of the bush again on the left-hand side. Carol, likewise. I could watch them all day. They always look at that run of the back. Charge. So much fun. So much fun. Okay, let's move up. So everybody, once again, explanation. The herd, youngsters playing in the open, 100% relaxed. You wouldn't see any of that behavior if his elephant weren't relaxed. You might get a youngster like this trumpeting and doing his thing. He's just being a little nonsense, to be honest. You go a bit closer. Go a bit closer. It's the adult females that need to be watched out for if they're not relaxed. But if you can see youngsters out in the open like we are doing here and the animals are feeding, enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Don't feel any panic. Just know that you can just enjoy the sighting. This earth-moving machine here, she's just pushing that tree over. She's lifted it up off of the side, pushed it over. Obviously wants to either get at the roots or, yeah, she's digging. She wants the roots of the large fruited bush willow that actually looks like a variable bush willow. Hello, Alex, 9 years old. I don't actually know how many times a baby elephant feeds every day. Elephants themselves are feeding all the time, but the milk, I think, is quite nutrient-rich, so they don't have to suckle constantly, but they definitely are quite demanding on the mother. That's why in the breeding season or in the weaning season, she does undergo a fair amount of stress because she's having to feed for herself and for a very hungry little elephant. So I don't know exactly how many times they suckle. It'd probably be quite similar to humans, where it's every couple of hours or every hour or so they need to eat, need to suckle a bit. But I'm really not certain. Good question. But she's definitely pregnant again. Seems like it. We might be lucky with one of these herds to see a live birth. That would be definitely a once in a lifetime sighting for me. I've seen the end of a birthing. I haven't actually witnessed. See how that youngster's got her nose right and they're going, "What are you doing, Mum?" Very interested, learning how to get the roots. Although there is plenty of food around at the moment, the roots of these trees, as we know, have got enormous amounts of medicinal properties. Kids Thunder is top 5 most adorable traffic jams. Indeed. Indeed, indeed, indeed. I might try and get past this female, as it sounds like the herd a bit further up is interacting, making lots of noise. But she's a little bit close to the road, but she's quite relaxed. Maybe we'll just spend another moment here. Got a good view. The herd is slowly moving south. Wayne, yes, they are. They're definitely increasing. They have been increasing for a few years now. I don't know what the number is. Probably 22,000 or so. Plenty of food, plenty of resources, plenty of elephants. Southern Africa hosts, oh, hello, little one, the majority of the elephant population. Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. Just move back and we can get that little one there. What are they doing? They are digging. Emma, so elephants normally, males are about 40 or so, generally they're full capacity. Females from the ages of 20 up to 30, they probably reach full size. It's hard to say really, they don't constantly grow. The males seem to constantly grow, but they sort of pan off or peter off at the age of 40, 45. They still do get a little bit thicker, but they don't really grow in height much more. But most of the growth happens in the teens up into the 20s. I don't know, Hammond. I've never heard an elephant laugh, but I've no doubt they've got a sense of humour. They exhibit so many other human characteristics, so why would laughter not be one of them? They definitely do have a sense of humour, that is for sure. Daniel, they're always very touchy, always very tactile elephants, so I wouldn't know whether they cuddle more at any stage, but they're always together. The herds are very, very close, spend a lot of time very close to each other. It's very important for them. Whether you'd call that cuddling or not is hard to say, but they're definitely always in touching reach of each other. They find comfort in touch, comfort in the tactile nature of their behavior. This little one is bouncing between the youngsters and the mum, trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do while everybody else is eating? Because that one would be completely dependent on milk at the moment. So gets its share of milk, and then it's got time to explore and to play and to pick up sticks and things that mum drops. And to challenge birds and whatever other animals come around.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Tswalu. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with WildEarth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Tswalu's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The Mara Triangle is a jewel in the Kenyan conservation crown, and thanks to the dedication of the Mara Conservancy, it thrives as one of Earth's greatest national treasures.
We have been experiencing a reduction in the wire snails that we collect on a monthly basis, and this is basically attributed to our intense patrols.
Over the years, this courageous team of anti-poachers has reduced poaching to almost zero.
Mimi naitwa Stephen Olereso. Nimefanya kazi miaka 16 sasa. Kuanzia miaka 2002. Hao wanadamu ni wenye utua sana sana inaogofya ni wale wenye wanaenda kama ndovu. Wanatumia kama bunduki. Sasa hiyo ndio huwa inakuanga hatari sana sana kwa sisi.
As a result of the global pandemic and the massive reduction in tourist revenue, the Mara Triangle is facing a financial crisis. They need your help if they are to continue their ability to protect this magical land.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, one of the little youngsters made a scream, and 3 of the big females have just gone charging into that area. we're just trying to figure out what's happened. Amazing how quickly she reacted. Now, often we'll find individuals scream like that high, really disjointed sound, and then we'll find elephants do nothing. But in that situation, the female that was here destroying this tree before, she reacted immediately, and she went charging over there. Another female came from the southern side. Now they're all off in the bushes there, but they seem to be relaxing. I'm going to go and sort out some disciplinary action, leaving this youngster here to enjoy the roots that Mum has so graciously dug up for it before. It's like, Mum, I'll stay here eating, you go sort out whatever drama that is. I'll shake my head at this guy here. Maybe it's time for me to go and have a look too. Suddenly realize you're on your own. The root in your mouth. Tasty. Sounds like they might come through a treehouse dam if they keep moving. I didn't think they would. Craig, you find bulls. Young bulls get chased out as they start showing sexual interest in the females. Sort of like, okay, you're getting a little bit interested in your sister, time to go. And they'll get chased out for sure. Other than that, they're normally quite sort of docile with each other. Breeding herds of elephant. Okay, well, looks like they're all disappearing into the thickets. Let's head around. We've got two options. Which way, darling? Should we go back? I think we should go back. Looks like they're going to go to treehouse dam, so let's go. It didn't look like they were going to initially. Junction just here, dam is just there, so we could be lucky. Could be lucky getting elephants coming down to drink. Lioness lover, baby elephants. 110 kilograms, so 230, 240 pounds at birth. They don't look very big, but they're solid little things. 22 months gestation period. So you can imagine how little they'd be if they only had a 9 to 12 gestation. Be tiny, tiny. So a little bit more time in the womb, more time for and they're able to sort of walk birth with a little bit of assistance. Obviously the herd then takes it really easy, helps the youngster move around, but the breeding herds definitely are limited in their movements by the ability of the youngsters to move. So in areas with lots and lots of water, elephants do very, very well because they don't have to go very far. But the stresses that will undertake or will be put on a young elephant when they have to travel very long distances is actually a major cause for calf mortality, which we don't really see too much of in the Kruger these days due to the abundance of water. So here we come to Treehouse Dam. I think we're a little bit early. Elephants come and go. There's nothing to keep them, so they will move between parts of Sabi Sands into the Kruger. But definitely some herds will regularly keep coming back and will even spend a good portion of their time in one place, but they're constantly moving. You never find them in the same place twice. So somewhere over there in the thickets are some elephants. So we will just sit here quietly in anticipation for their arrival, if indeed that was their plan, which I'm not certain whether it was. That's okay. Sit here, take it easy. Time to send you over to Lauren.
Oh, you take it easy, Steve. Unfortunately for us, we are not having any luck. Luck has ran dry on this side. We are checking the hyena dens again because it's extremely cold and windy, as we've already told you. And it means it still could be active. Now this is den number 2. And it was reported that they were using this the other day. I think it was just a temporary thing, but it's always just worth checking. I mean, Morgan will just give you a view of how completely overgrown it is. I mean, it's really overgrown. It's my favourite mound. I just love it. But sadly, no hyenas. They don't seem to be using den number 1 at the moment, so we'll head round and check number 3. Oh, hyenas. This has never been an easy turn. There we go. Tyler, yes, the hyenas have so many homes. They've been using these 3 dens for a very long time. And I'm glad. It's easy for us, it's close to camp, and it just happens to be in such a great area. But I keep trying, even when you don't see me and I'm not live, I am trying to honestly catch the hyenas. Yesterday we had a very brief sighting with them until Ntima left, I'm afraid. But I do think they've now gone back inside the den. But you never know. Weather plays a huge, huge part in seeing animals, not just hyenas. And unfortunately, den number 3 is not active. Oh, so as I drive with a heavy heart, we are going to send you down to Josh in Tswalu.
We've decided we're going to head into the dune lands and see what else we can find. It does look like one of our guides is having a bush picnic out there, so we're just going to avoid that area, but I can see we're about to have a little bit of company. We're just going to be bypassing another vehicle. See what else we can find. Lots of these katydids on the road, hey. These ground crickets are everywhere. But quite a nice view here, looking out into the grasslands. Very peaceful. So our big game has been vacant this morning, but I think we've had a very successful morning. Doesn't sound like the hyenas came out, unfortunately. Always nice to get to spend time with them. But between the elephants and the jackals and lions hiding from the wind, it's definitely been a successful morning on live safari, that's for sure. So we're just wondering here, we're going to go out into the dunes. Maybe, just maybe, we'll see if we can't find one or two of our bigger characters for the show. But like always, you never really know. Terminalias on the dune tops there are looking nice and thick. When I arrived here a little bit over a year ago, to say that this was all just red sand would be an understatement. We'd just come out of a 7-year drought. We're having our first decent rains. And then you get to this rainy season, and we've had over 2 years almost worth of rain. And as you can see, our vegetation has most certainly recovered. It's become incredibly thick. So we're going to carry on bumbling around, seeing what we can find. But one of my mates at Ngala, I think, has something to share with you. So enjoy.
How amazing is this, from one set of lions to being able to see the two brothers that we were talking about earlier, two big male lions. Now, have a look at this one off to the right and what it's doing at the moment. You'll see it's just cleaning itself. And early on it was like licking the paw and actually brushing the paw through the face. And for some of our viewers, these are the two Ross males, the two dominant males of this area that we've been following for the last little while. But what's quite amazing is having them here, and just off to our left we actually have the lioness with the 3 young cubs suckling at the moment. So it is a pretty special sighting to be in. So we have that, and then right here in the gap you'll see the lioness is lying down on her back with these 3 little cubs suckling at the moment. Very special to see.
Jackson was small pride on Mill Road going up and down.
See the one cub just going nub now. Trying to push the other one out of the way to have a drink. You see that one in the middle is quite thirsty. The others probably had quite a nice drink like the whole time. I love it. Instead of actually walking around Mum, they decide to walk over her. So while they're having their breakfast, I just want to come back to this one male lion. And it looks like there might be something moving behind us that's caught his attention. Oh, No, he's just lifting his head to smell the air. But earlier on, he was staring right past us to something in the back. Luther, I agree with you. They are absolutely magnificent. And to think about it, like they, according to what I know now, over 10 years old, and they're still doing very well in order to maintain this territory and push all the other males out. So if you think about them, normally male lions, when they get to close to 10, that's when they start being pushed out of an area, or often their condition goes down quite a bit. But if you look at them, still in a very good condition, very muscular. They are full. Might be because they've been hanging around with the prides, but even when they're by themselves, they are very good hunters. Now you'll see the one that we're looking at now with the head towards us, that just licked his lips. He has a lot lighter colored mane in comparison to one right next to him. You'll see a lot more blonde around the face, and then underneath the chin, there's more of a darker patch of mane. See how he's looking or staring behind us? Oh, maybe just having a look to see if there's anything. Izzy, they do fight over females, excuse me, but what I've noticed is when the one male, so let's say if this blonde male that we're looking at right now, if he's with the pride first, then he'll push the brother off. So every time the brother gets close, he'll fight with the brother, but then what tends to happen is the brother tends to lie down further away. If the dark mane that's right next to him is first with the pride, then he tends to push the blonde one away. And sometimes there could be a bit of a dispute, but whenever the dispute is finished, whenever they move on, they have a very tight bond. I've seen them walking right next to each other in the road, where they walk so tightly against one another, they actually push each other off the road. Look at the size of that one's paw. I mean, it's massive. Like whenever he calls it up like that, it actually gives you a bit of a perspective of how big it is in comparison to his face. See how he's just cleaning his nails, like you can see that nail sticking out. And sometimes what they do is they grip and actually pull it a bit. Now that lioness with the young cubs, she's not turned around, she's rolled back this way, and the cubs are still trying to just get their fair share of breakfast. And you can imagine the older these cubs get, the more competitive it's going to become in order to try and get milk, because mom will produce less and less milk, and of course because they grow, they want more and more, to the stage where they'll fight so much to try and get some milk that mom gets so irritated and eventually gets up and starts moving away. But they are capable, even at this young age, to eat meat. And often if they're really young and mom opens a carcass, sometimes what you see is they actually lick the blood, and then from there on they take little chunks of meat. They won't be able to open the carcass yet because their teeth are really sharp, but not capable of actually pulling and tearing it open. Nicanova, that's a very interesting question, and to be completely honest, I'm not too sure. I do know that sometimes what happens when a female goes into estrus is that there might be one, or let's say with these two brothers, it might be that both brothers would mate with that female, but I'm sure the litter would only belong to one father. But as I said, it is something that I'm hoping to read up a little bit more about and see. Maybe if some of our viewers would like to post some answers for us and give us your opinion of what you think. I'd really love to hear from the viewers. LP, I definitely think that one of them would carry the white line gene, because in order to get a white line, both the male and the female has to have the recessive white gene, because if they don't, and then there's no way that there could be any white line. So definitely the females have that gene within this pride, and then of course these two, one of these males, and I mean my thinking is it might be the one with a lighter colored mane that might be the one carrying that, but you never know. I mean, the one with the dark could possibly have that recessive white gene. Actually here, as we're sitting here, I can hear the cubs fighting. It might be not too long before Mom gets a bit agitated and start moving off, but look at how intently this male is staring at something. He's just having a look at the cubs now because they're actually fighting with one another. And often with lions, there's no such thing as table manners, especially with the cubs. Well, you might find that when they're really tired, they'll all just find like a spot to suckle and then they'll fall asleep. But often when they're really hungry, they tend to push each other off, because it is survival of the fittest when it comes to the animals in the bush. And if they don't make use of the opportunity, the brothers or the brother or sister won't wait for one another. It's basically have to fight their way through. But this mom has a lot of patience. Sometimes what happens once they start fighting like that, because you can imagine how sore it must be a mom if they clamp onto a teat in order to suckle and the others are fighting and they actually pull that. So she's been very, very good and just put her paw like on top of the one's head. Well, I know with other females, they'll actually latch out at the youngsters. I'm just looking at this male again. But we'll just spend some time with the cubs. But he is staring just directly behind us. It might be because the wind's also blowing from behind us down towards the lions. Maybe they've smelled something or picked something up in the air. In the meantime, while we enjoy these lions, let's head across to Steve, who's waiting at a waterhole for some elephants.
Thanks, Nikki. Well, good luck. Enjoy your time with your lions. We've got our elephants slowly coming down, and what science has proven in lion cubs, I think what Nikki wasn't sure about there, is that indeed more than one male can be the father of a litter in lions. It's a very interesting sort of concept that, say, a brood or litter of 3 or 4 lion cubs could have 2 different males being the fathers. I'm not 100% sure how that works. And the only way of that happening in a human being is if a human being was a surrogate and then also obviously had intercourse, and then had a second. That's the only way a human could have two fathers fertilizing, but then that is obviously through IVF. But in lions, it's one of those strategies of sort of confusing the male, to be fair, so the male's not sure if they are his cubs or not. Kind of one of those strategies. Huge amounts of mating are required to impregnate a female lioness. So no male is certain whether it was... Here we go, on the left is a little youngsters being very brave, Darby. The youngsters coming down to Treehouse Dam. Now, where this youngster is about to approach to is actually the spring part of Treehouse. The top of the watering hole itself is actually a natural spring. Just off to the right on the bottom left of the screen is the natural spring. So when this watering hole, or when the landscape is inundated with water, that is where the water is actually coming out from the ground over there. Obviously it comes in the ground, upslope, and then the water is released. So you'll often find the elephants drinking from the freshest part, where the water is still bubbling out, but it also is a part that is prone to a little bit of mud wallowing from time to time. So it might not always be the freshest part. Gavin, they probably could. They probably could go the whole day without drinking. I mean, the desert elephants go for a period of time without drinking. I don't think it's by choice. I think it's by necessity. And elephants, as with most animals out here, will drink as much as they can. Darby, we've got to kill. 12 o'clock, we've got to kill. Oh, we had a kill. Oh, he's on the road now, just in front of the elephant dung. Oh. There we go, everybody. They are fish in Treehouse. They were fish. It amazes me how these birds are able to hold on. Whoopsie, off it goes. Hold on to a fish that's very slippery and slithery. I'm not sure if you'd be able to hold on to a fish like that with your hands. It would slip and slide, but they've got a very well adapted beak to do so. Okay, well, there we go. They're coming out slowly but surely. The young bulls, the rest of the herd slowly following. We could have a beautiful scene here in a few minutes where 15 to 20 elephants all come down to drink. These are priceless moments if you are on foot and you encounter a herd heading in the general direction of water and you've got the wind blowing straight towards you like it is right now, and you get to a position on the other side of the watering hole and you just sit everybody down, you maybe pour some coffee, you sit and wait. Eventually, one by one, the elephants come out on the other side. Everybody's safe, everybody's secure. The elephants are in a safe spot as well. They're not too concerned. The wind is perfect. You can sit here and watch them come down and drink. It is definitely some of those moments that can change somebody's life. They might not seem that profound to you right now watching it on your screen, but I can guarantee you when you're out here in the wilds with nothing but your wits and your guide to keep you safe, you are very aware of the connectivity of the land and of the earth beneath your feet. You can actually feel it, and of the presence of these giants, gentle giants they are. There it goes, going straight towards the spring. Going to have a little drink first, or a little eat. A little eat. I swear my English will improve this weekend. Definitely a boy, hey Darby, can you tell? This boy. Mm-hmm. LP, yes, of course. Elephants, baby elephants are prone to attack from lion, hyena, and even leopard if they do venture too far away from their mother. But sometimes lion will actually hunt elephant, but it is definitely not the easiest of prey, because it's not that the baby's the hardest to bring down, but you've got to get her away from mum, and the noises that the baby makes will attract the entire herd, and, well, lions can't compete with a single big elephant, let alone a whole herd of them. So it's definitely a last resort. And in areas like Savuti, where elephants have changed the landscape to a point where there's hardly, in certain times of year, there's hardly any other animals around, the lions have actually evolved there to hunt, or adapted there to hunt medium-sized elephant. So elephant are preyed upon, not commonly. Here it comes to the spring. Now you see how excited he gets. Here we go, there's the spring right there. Found it.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa, day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
For all of you WildEarth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumbo crew, hopefully, Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
So have a look. One of the young cubs decided to come down to one of the males, and I just want to see if it looks like it might be one of the young females. Earlier on, she was trying to get hold of his tail, but of course he just moved it out of the way. And let's see. maybe there's a chance you might decide to go play with them. And sometimes I've noticed that these cubs actually pull the mane of or potentially the father. They do tend to have a lot of patience with them. See, there's the tail. She's deciding not to go for the tail, but it is very tempting. I mean, even he has to have a lot of patience, because see how he's trying to look. There you go. He's not saying that's enough. It was funny where she held it down and he was trying to move his tail and he couldn't. And now she's heading back towards Mum. And Mum's lying down, just looking at both the males together, and then the other ones are just lying behind her. But we're just going to enjoy this for the next little while. In the meantime, let's head across to those elephants with Steve.
Well, welcome back to the drinking fest. As hoped for, as promised, here they come. I'm just going to allow you just to enjoy the sea with us. Absolutely delightful. So you can anticipate this sort of activity with elephants if you know your area. They're going to drink. Their general direction and normally indicates where. Wonderful scenes coming to you live from Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where we are blessed to share these scenes with you on this holy Saturday. We hope you and your family, wherever you might be today, are enjoying a little bit of family time like this herd of elephants. Maybe you've got a meal planned or a family gathering. We hope it is all fantastic and enjoyable. We will be live with you again this afternoon, normal time, same place, from all of our wonderful locations as more elephants emerge out of the woodwork. We are truly blessed to share these images with you, and we'll leave you with some closing silence from this herd of elephants. Until this afternoon, have a blessed day.